Welcome to a new Daily Top AskReddit video. Today's topic.
What's the worst drug ever? Fentanyl. Don't do it. Fentanyl is bad news. I know 2 people who died after getting other drugs laced with fentanyl. I still don't understand why some dealers would risk killing their customers. It seems bad from a business standpoint if nothing else. My auntie is a lifetime-long junkie, used to be heroin and speed but now it's injecting crack. Anyway, I actually asked her why addicts flock to a dealer whose product is known to kill people, and she said, if it's good enough to kill you, imagine the high off it. That must be good shit, and that her and her friends would specifically look for heroin named awful morbid things like Titanic because if you get close to death it's a good high. Madness. Wasn't there some nightmare drug called crocodile that melts your flesh? Crocodile, in its pure form, is actually a pretty typical opioid called desomorphine. It's commonly used in Eastern Europe in medical settings. The melting your flesh thing isn't the drug itself, but bad manufacturing of it on the street. Essentially street-level chemists will take codeine and attempt to convert that to desomorphine using a few chemicals including phosphorus and iodine. Because these chemists don't actually know what they are doing, byproducts are left behind and end up in the final product. Phosphorus and iodine being the most common byproducts, as the reaction is a bit tricky to balance with these chems. So essentially addicts were, most often unknowingly, injecting themselves with phosphorus, thus causing the destruction to flesh. Edit, forgot to add the most horrifying part about this. There was clean desomorphine on the streets, Eastern Europe primarily, for years before users started getting contaminated substances. Most of the victims probably had no idea they were injecting something so destructive until it was too late. Sounds like Walter White needed to be making that instead of meth. I heard it is or was popular in Russia. Google pictures and see what it does to people. It's nuts. No, I don't think I will. Don't know what you've heard, but there is no homosexuality or drug use in Russia. I'm Gen X, all my dead friends died from heroin. Right on the fringe of Gen X, millennial, so I've got a little bit of both heroin, fentanyl, but fentanyl seems to be taking him out so much quicker. One of my closest friends died approximately 7 years ago from fentanyl. His wife still posts about how much she and the daughter miss him. The daughter is 13 now and he fucking missed all of it. Was literally in fucking med school when he ordered. Had such a bright future that got squandered cause we thought it'd be fun to take pills in high school. Most of us took different paths. He didn't, and it breaks my heart, over and over and over again. I'm 40 years old and the pain pill craze, Vicodin, Percocet, OxyContin, when I was a teenager, and I was hooked on those things like a bad habit, no pun intended. It was rare to hear about fatal overdoses. Then I got into the heroin world and fell even deeper in love, but I was always careful because people were overdosing way more than the pain pill guys were, but it still wasn't that bad. Then fentanyl started creeping around and people were dropping like flies. The heroin was laced with it, counterfeit Percocets were laced with it. It really started scaring the shit out of me and I lost my nerve. I snorted a few little bumps of it and that's all the further I went because I was afraid of it. I quit using altogether cold turkey because I just didn't know if it was in my heroin or not. It's not worth the risk. I've seen fentanyl kill more people that I've known than all other drugs put together. My pick for the worst drug ever is fentanyl, and meth is my second choice because of the nasty irreparable damage it does to the mind and body. I've seen long-time opiate users make a full recovery, but nobody fully recovers from long-term meth use. I'm a former meth and fentanyl user, odded around 21 times. They are both awful. The way they ruin you is by taking everything from you but in infinitesimally small increments so that you don't know you're losing everything. Then all of a sudden you are totally fucked life-wise, but at that point you are so addicted that you can't stop to worry about the state of things because you have to maintain your addiction. I have almost 90 days clean. It's not a lot, but I'll take it. I want to live. It's not a lot. That's actually a hell of a lot, bro. Most people hooked on that shit can't go 30, and here you are 3x that. Don't run yourself down. I'm proud of you, man. Good for you for being clean so far. Great job. Fentanyl in my city turns the homeless community into zombies for hours. I remember when fentanyl was what shitty dealers were cutting their heroin with that was killing people. Blew my mind when I heard that people were just straight up doing fentanyl. I was addicted to fentanyl for a few years. Once you start on it, it's hard to go back to regular opioids. BC, it's so cheap, accessible, and gets you reliably high on little. Once you reach a certain threshold of tolerance, it doesn't feel any different, although the withdrawal is much worse. People throw around the term crackhead still, and I remind them that crack is pretty much dead. Back in the day you could offer a crackhead $10 to help you move an entire studio apartment and that shit would be done in 2 hours. These fent heads just be half dead standing on a corner, and don't even have the capacity to panhandle. Scary shit. Crack is still very much around, but accountability courts work great for anyone who actually wants to quit crack. They make you show up at 8 a.m. for like a month, which is incompatible with doing crack, and a ton of alumni never relapse. It only works if you really want to quit. And it's useless for opioids where you'll just relapse and end up serving a felony. I've watched documentaries on this. Literally humans being turned into zombies. Then there's people who cannot walk upright due to nodding off. Meth. Former user who's been clean since 2006-2007, I'm 34 now and in a happy place. Edit, to those who've praised me for being sober this long. From the bottom of my heart and the happy tears, thank you so much for your kind words. My family showed very little or no emotion to me being sober. Seeing strangers congratulate me on this. I can't stop crying from all your words. Thank you again. Red heart, red heart, red heart, red heart. You were doing meth as a teen. That's brutal. Happy for your sobriety. I was 13 to 14 when I started using and didn't stop till I wanted to join the National Guard. When I went though, I went with the wrong mindset of just wanting to end it all. So I was discharged and started my life as what I am today. Johnny Cash Hurt. This song helped me open my eyes and heart. I had a friend who was first introduced to meth at 13. By her own dad. Alcohol. Ruins health, families, lives. It's legal and if you don't drink it, people act like there's something wrong with you. Edit, my most upvoted comment. Thank you for sharing your experiences and thoughts with me on this subject. Second edit, to those of you who feel the need to defend alcohol. I'm worried about you. The worst of them all because it is 100% acceptable and you can get it just about anywhere. The day I realized I could get liquor and a fountain soda at the gas station, and have a mixed drink in the car, is when I reached peak alcoholic. Quit about 8 months after that. It's pretty wild that liquor stores were considered essential businesses during COVID to avoid withdrawal. Datura. Datura, acajimson weed, scopolamine, and other deliriants are by far the most horrifying drugs in existence. I went down the rabbit hole of reading people's experiences with them and it's some disturbing shit. Diphenhydramine, Benadryl, is also a deliriant at very high doses. I believe there's a subreddit for people who are addicted. It's not a place for the light-hearted. When you are high on those drugs, they call it being in the shadowland. A common delirium hallucination is to see the witch or hag. Go to Arrowwood and you can read multiple accounts of this. The hallucinations are extremely dark and they last a very long time, with the affected person being wholly unaware that they are hallucinating or in a state of delirium. There is no euphoria, which makes it different from literally all other recreational drugs. I've never understood the appeal of deliriants. And datura is straight up poison. Why risk dying for such a horrible experience? Had to scroll way too far to see this. All the other drugs mentioned at least make you feel good for a bit. Datura doesn't seem pleasurable at all and seems to do nothing but make you insane for several hours. I read a bunch of stories on Arrowwood back in the day about datura. The idea of losing control of my mind impacted me so severely that I have to be careful even smoking weed. I've had panic attacks while high because I thought about my perception too much. Only if it's an extreme high though. Edit, some people seem to be relating to the panicky feelings with weed. Something that helped me was switching to Delta 8 flower. I have not tried THCA, Delta 9, even if I get a good bake, it feels like I still have permission to leave the cyclical thoughts. The issue with strong weed highs is I just get stuck there until my mind can't take the racing thoughts anymore. I really hope this helps someone, because man do I wish someone told me about how the panic attacks work and what can be done when it first happened. Those attacks are no fucking joke. I had a lot of friends try this in high school. One was found at his computer after school playing computer games. His family didn't own a computer and he was hallucinating it. They brought him to hospital, leather strapped to a gurney. He broke the restraints, 130 pounds soaking wet, and was found in an elevator punching the fuck out of his dick because he thought it was on fire. Another I found looking really paranoid outside of a convenience store. He had just tried stealing cigarettes from behind the counter and got beat up by the 60-year-old Korean lady. He had just harvested tens of pounds of weed with some other friends. He threw it all away, burned it, had it stolen and yes, ate all of it. A few hours, try a few days. Hydrophobic, drooling, sauna hot and drifting in and out of different terrifying hallucinations for 2 to 3 days. Crocodile. It was like heroin but with gasoline in it, really only found in Russia. It caused your skin to turn green and then rot off. I don't think it's around anymore because fentanyl is cheaper and it was just a drug for people too poor for heroin. I remember when this was huge. My friend was studying drug addiction in school, can't remember the degree lol, and I remember asking, why would anyone take it knowing your skin would fall off? And he replied with, how do they know what they're taking? They were offered drugs and took it. That made me see addiction in a whole new light. I once transported someone who called 911 because they took unknown drugs at a party and were feeling weird effects. They asked me if they were going to die and I just said, I don't know. We don't know what you took. Quote, dumb even for a teenager. In my case it was Xanax. You're the first person I've seen mention benzos, but they would be way up on the list for me as well. They turned me into a sociopath, and the withdrawals were the most traumatizing thing I've ever experienced. Hands down, same. I had a doctor who overprescribed it for me for anxiety and insomnia. It worked great, until it didn't, and I just needed more and more. Luckily I realized it was going to be a never-ending downward spiral and weaned myself off. Getting off was the worst months of my life, where sleep was practically non-existent, and if I was fortunate enough to fall asleep, a body zap would shortly wake me up. Fuck Xanax. Never again. Benzo withdrawals are actually one of the two withdrawals that can quite literally kill you, the other being alcohol. Edit, spelling. I hate opiates, even for pain relief. I get nausea, itchy, insomnia, constipation, hot flashes, basically any side effect those drugs can cause. They don't even work all that great on pain. I still hurt, I just don't care as much. I've never understood how people get addicted to them. Benzos. Got one prescription, never again. I felt completely at ease, like I was floating in a warm, calm sea with waves gently rocking me. I can absolutely see how someone can get addicted, and that's one where the withdrawal can kill you, like alcohol. Nowadays I take propranolol for anxiety. It's a beta blocker. No side effects whatsoever, no high. It just completely cuts out the physical sensations of anxiety, which in turn can calm the mental stuff because it severs that negative feedback loop between body and mind. I take it and 30 minutes later I just feel normal. I can drive on it, I can work on it. It's a wonder drug.